Reread the prompt for this assignment. Research a company that is currently in trouble financially. Identify at least 4 problems you found in the company's organizational structure, use of technology, mission statement, alignment, and/or leadership. Imagine you're a financial consultant for this company and have the opportunity to sit down with the top executives to discuss how you would help them with their current issues, develop and implement structure problem solving. Presented in a video of at least 5 minutes, as if you were the financial consultant explaining your plan. So I prepared a quick PowerPoint, which is really just high level, and then I have my notes here, which I'll read from. So let me maximize this. All right, so I chose Sears, mainly because it's one of the most popular that everybody knows about. At one point in time, it was the biggest retailer in the United States. And one of the things I read online that at sometime, I can't remember if it was in the 60s, they were actually accounted for 1% of the entire U.S. economy. So they're pretty well-known failure. So just a real quick history. So really its heydays, or when it started to explode, was in 1925 under General Robert E. Wood. He was basically the driver into the Sears that we know today, or well, of yesteryear, sorry. So basically he decided to take the company away from just catalog sales and bring them into brick and mortar stores, all the Sears that we've seen around the country. He also established Allstate Insurance, which was new to me. I didn't know that was established by Sears. It has now been broken off. And then after World War II, when a lot of retailers were actually shrinking, they decided to expand. This was the primary time when they started popping up in the West as well. So before that, they were primarily like Northeastern type countries, or sorry, not countries, type stores. As you know, the Sears building in Chicago. They did have a few very well-known failures. So believe it or not, it actually started in the 50s and 60s. That was when the seeds were laid for the company's demise. Even though it continued to grow and flourish and expand all the way up until the 90s, this is really when it started to get shaky. So during that time, when General Wood reached about 75 years old, he decided that it was time for him to retire. This was a problem because before his retirement, or right before this, they had also set a company standard that everyone must retire by the age of 65. Since he had stayed in for so long, most of the people that he had groomed and would have been good candidates to take his position were close to that mandatory 65-year-old retirement age. So this led to a string of very short-lived CEOs, which can be problematic. A lot of people have different views and different directions they want to take the company, and the ripple effects from those changes can be seen years and years and years in the future. The other thing is, in the 1960s, the big box retail store was just coming into the U.S. So Walmart or Costco, like stuff like that, was just starting to show its face, and the consumers were beginning to shift towards this way of shopping. Anyone who's ever shopped at Sears, they had. It was very interesting. It's a lot of commission-based shopping. Basically, you have a service plan that comes with your devices. It's more of a process. You're going to spend more money. It's not like the Walmart of today where you just walk in, load up your grocery cart, and head out. That's that. So anyway, a lot of things happened between then and 2004, but the next big thing that happened was Eddie Lambert, the owner of Kmart, actually purchased Sears and changed the name into Sears Holdings. So before this time as well, they had started to dabble in the financial industry, but it was really the 80s, 90s, and 2000s where they started to really get into the financial industry. And this seemed like a good idea at the time, and it worked out well. The company's value was increasing. They were still making profit. But during this, but also during this time, so the merger with Kmart, basically the company's organizational structure ballooned. So they had always had a very hierarchical structure with many, many, many layers in between the CEO and then the salespeople who were on the floor, even the people making the decisions in marketing or what products were going to be brought out. This makes things move very, very slow. And then with the merger with Kmart, it just made it worse. So they already were suffering from a lack of innovation, not knowing or even not keeping up with or even knowing where the markets were going, what the consumers wanted. This just made it worse. And anybody who knows anything about Kmart is another story of a big box or of a retailer who didn't quite make it too. So this was two failing retailers that were merged together. And then in 2018, Sears Holding declared bankruptcy. So just recently. As we know, it's been all over the news. Yeah, so here we are. All right, so this is just a real quick snap of the different, basically a very, very high level OU, who actually owned the company between 1977 and 2017. So if you look at the 1977 structure, you can see that they actually had Berkshire Hathaway, all these different portions of the company were linked together, and they kind of streamlined things in an effort to save the company in 2017. It didn't work, but they tried. So there's a few recommendations, which you can't see because this window is in the way. So I would recommend that we divide the company into two sub-brands or two sub-companies, completely peel the financial services away from the retail side of the house. The reason I say we should do this is that they are two completely different entities. They have completely different OUs. They have different rules. There's just too many things that there's no reason to have them connected. That will just add too much overhead. The other reason I'd say that is because I would recommend that the financial services divisions have a more hierarchical structure, because they're very heavily regulated. There's a lot of rules they need to follow, and you don't want them making big financial decisions quickly. You want to have them under control. Whereas the retail side of the house, I feel, would benefit from a very flat organizational structure. Today's retail is changing by the minute. I mean, we go online and buy things all the time, and the things that we're interested in changes constantly, and there's new devices, new methods of shopping coming out all the time. So I feel like the retail side of the house should be very flat, very quick, very agile. That would also minimize overhead expenses as well. And as we know, in retail, it's a constant competition for prices. So I feel like that needs to be a very lean, quick, smooth running business model. Almost as with what Amazon has done, heavily into automation. Everything is self-serve, putting a lot of money into the technology, the interface the customer uses, etc. And then I want each one of these divisions, like I said, to function completely independently. I feel like there should be one holding company, which could still be Sears Holding, or change the name, whatever we'd like to do. But they should be completely independent entities operating on their own. I feel like this would help the differing business models thrive. And then I did say I want each of these to operate under a flattened hierarchy. I still feel like the current hierarchy that we have at Sears is too bloated, I would say, even for the financial services division independently. There does need to be a certain level of checks and balances on the way up, but it does not need to be nearly what it is now. And then I would have the retail division focus specifically on market adaptation. So one of the, I feel like the missed opportunities that Sears had was not getting ahead of the market. Even though they had the biggest portion of it and they had the most connection with the consumer, they really had, I guess, the closest and the easiest view into what the customer wanted. I feel like we should get back to that, go back to the customer and figure out how we can change our operating model to better meet the customer. And then I think we should really focus on online. Brick and mortar stores still have a place in this world, but as you can tell, they are slowly disappearing. One thing that is popping up making a comeback, I would say, is the mom and pop shop. I live in San Diego, California, and yes, we have all the big box retailers there everywhere, but the way that the city is divided up, there's a bunch of little boroughs. There's like North Park, Hillcrest, Little Italy, and these individual mom and shop hardware stores and grocery stores and all that are all the rage now. A lot of people prefer to shop there than actually shopping at Walmart or any of the big box retailers. So that's something I'd like to get back into, or I feel like the company should get back into. Okay, that concludes my presentation. The citations are included at the end. Please let me know if you can't hear this. I'll listen to it before I send it. All right, thank you. To figure out how to stop it.